tubers, and welcome back to my channel. You'll have to forgive me today if my demeanor seems a little lower than usual. I am dealing with the possibility of a bulging or herniated disc, and the last 3 weeks have been extremely painful, and today is just, it's up there, and the Advil I took a couple hours ago isn't helping. So I'm just, if I'm not as upbeat as I usually am, that's why I'm in pain. So just want to give you guys a heads up on that one. This week we have our second Star Wars character breakdown. Unlike last week, it's not going to be 2 characters, it's going to be 3, because why make things easier for myself? But it's okay because 2 of the characters are twins and they sort of go together, but at the same time they are 2 separate people, so it's not going to be, you know, like everything about them is exactly the same. There are differences. The characters we're talking about this week are, for the first of my Star Wars families, Alara Callista Kenobi and her twin brother Mace Ben Kenobi. And then from our second Star Wars family we have Merrin Zio. Once more, I'm not explaining Star Wars. I'm just not doing it. Google it if you must, and then go sit in a corner and think about what you've been missing. Go on. We'll wait. We'll start with Alara and Mace. They are the twin children of my original Star Wars character for our first family, Callista, and her husband, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They were born about 4 to 5 months after Luke and Leia. Their home planet is Tatooine, and they were raised in the way of the Jedi. Mace is the oldest of the twin, keeping in line with how Luke and Leia were born, unintentional as it was. I do like how it worked out. He has his father's blue eyes and his mother's dark curly hair. Although I just realized in the picture I have of him, his hair is lightly colored. Anyway. Look, there's only so much you can do on Avatar's websites, okay? Alara was born nearly right on the heels of her brother, kind of a childhood long type thing for her. She follows her brother around. She has reddish blonde curls like her father, and blue eyes that eventually turn green to match her mother's. In the other spectrum, we have Merrin, who, like her foster mother Narina, was an orphan, but she was made so by the Clone Wars. She was taken into the Jedi creche when she was just an infant and stayed there until the fall of the temple. She has brown curls and brown eyes. She knows nothing of her past because her people were all killed in the war. I had at one point picked a planet for her, but for the life of me I can't find that information, and I can't remember what the planet was that I picked. I may pick a new one, or I may just leave her a mystery. I don't know. Merrin is special to Narina because Narina seems to be the only one who can calm Merrin. Merrin is very strong within the Force, often feeling things before they happen. As a baby, this often upsets her, and Narina would take her to the Room of 1,000 Fountains to calm her. That habit actually ends up saving their lives. Given the fact that Luke and Leia lay the groundwork for twins within the Star Wars universe, I had a bit to go on when it came to Alara and Mace. Only difference being, obviously, they grew up together. They knew each other, and that formed a stronger bond than what Luke and Leia have. I'm no stranger to creating twins. I've got several of them, but this is the first time I've had to create both halves. I've normally just added my own character in as a twin of an already existing character, but this time I had to create both Mace and Alara. And that's where I used Luke and Leia again as guidelines. Alara is just like Leia, very professional, keeps her emotions very close and in check, and she doesn't often show them. But she's also like Luke in that she's passionate about everything she does. Mace is that way as well, also being like Luke in that he's a flyboy. He also shares Leia's straightforward, no BS attitude when it comes to serious matters. He doesn't beat around the bush, he doesn't mince words. But the bond they have, unlike their cousins, can be felt across the galaxy, literally. At one point, Alara goes to train with Yoda, but she and Mace are still able to communicate with each other through the Force, even with the distance between Dagobah and Tatooine. Merrin was like Narina again in that she was from scratch. Yes, Obi-Wan and Narina were her foster parents, but she wasn't biologically related to them, so I could only go off of what she might have gained through growing up around them. As you can see in her images, as she got older, her hair turned a deep red color that's purely biological and is a trait that will be passed on to her daughter. Because of how strong she is within the Force, raising her around Luke was a challenge. So I had it from the age of 10 on that Merrin bounced between Yavin 4, Tatooine, and Alderaan. She moves around so much that even if Vader and Palpatine knew to look for her, they wouldn't be able to pinpoint her location. Think Nightcrawler in the second X-Men movie and how Xavier couldn't locate him even with Cerebro. I crossed fandoms again. Sorry about that. Also, unlike Alara and Mace, Merrin plays out in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The main reason that the twins weren't in it is because they were created and written before the movie came out. Merrin, on the other hand, was created and the writing process for her started after Rogue One had come out and after I had seen it. And putting her in that, it gives her the chance to change her storyline and that of the movies a little bit, but spoilers. When it comes to Alara and Mace, there are differences in what makes them easy to write. For Alara, it's her focus, the way she keeps her attention on what needs doing and nothing else. She doesn't allow her mind to wander until her tasks are complete. With Mace, it's his easygoing nature. He's very much the balance that Alara needs in her life. There are several times when she slips towards the dark side, and Mace is the one who brings her back, reminds her of the lighter side of things and how she isn't alone. He takes those moments very seriously, but at the same time, he knows how to bring his sister back. Merrin has a sharp wit, and that is something most of my characters have. But with Merrin, it makes her so easy to write. She brings levity to things in the most serious moments that helps everyone around her. She is known for cracking jokes even in the middle of, you know, highly sensitive missions where really it's not a joking matter. She still does it. Surprisingly, there isn't anything about Alara and Mace that's hard to write. As they're not the first pair of twins I've written, and probably won't be the last, I've gotten into a groove when it comes to writing them. Even though I've never had to create both halves of twins before, it doesn't make it any harder to work into things. Yes, it makes it more complicated, but complicated doesn't always mean harder. Merrin's lack of familial connections is what makes her harder to write. I said it in the last one, familial connections are what helps me blend the characters into the world. Not having those connections is hard. With Merrin, she has Obi-Wan, but it's not a solid blood connection. It's not something that she can immediately draw on and hold on to. And while she has her friends, it's not the same. So when she goes through the different events in her movies, it's a lot harder without her having that to fall back on. Best memory for Alara and Mace is the same thing. It's right after the events of the original trilogy when they return to Naboo and are able to meet Padme and Callista's sister Sola, her husband, and daughters. When they have a place of their mother, when they have a piece of their mother back, something that they'd lost many years before, Alara is able to have her wedding in her mother's home with as much family around her as possible. It wasn't really a conscious decision to take them back to Naboo, but as it wrote, it felt right to have it. For Merrin, her best memory is when she meets Baze and Chirrut on Jedha in Rogue One. Never before had she met someone who wasn't her father or mother that was tied to the Jedi Order. She forms an instant bond with the pair, and they take her on as almost a niece in a way. They're very protective of her, and she is of them. The joy and the humor that I was able to write into their first few days together is it's one of my best memories of writing, period. Once more, when it comes to worst memories, Alara and Mace have different ones. For Mace, it's when Alara and Leia are in the hands of the Empire. He feels her torture. He feels what Vader does to her trying to learn the location of the rebellion and the secret plans and, you know, everything that he's trying to get out of Leia, he's also trying to get out of Alara. The sheer amount of pain he feels her endure, he never forgets it. And for Alara, it's when Mace dies. It's when Ben Solo turns to the dark side. Mace is one of those that Ben kills in his anger and rage against Luke. And Alara feels it. She feels that bond that has been there since birth break and vanish into the Force. Like Mace never forgets Alara's pain at the hands of Vader, Alara never forgets the hole that now exists in her life where Mace used to be. To be honest, I haven't gotten to Marin's worst memory yet. I know what it's going to be, but I haven't written it, so I don't want to give it away. But like Alara, it's going to have to do with Ben. All three, their original goals were to carry on what their parents started. Alara and Mace took their mother and father's places as Jedi and leaders within the rebellion, and Marin became a turning point within canon that changed things for the rest of the movies. End goals is just to finish out the movies for all of them. Marin isn't finished yet, even though I have started on her daughter, but she's all planned out. As I said, Mace is gone, but his ghost shows up from time to time to aid his sister and his own child. And Alara, she is but a shadow of who she used to be, but she's still fighting alongside her husband, daughter, and Leia within the Resistance to end the First Order. And that is our second character breakdown for my Star Wars characters. Next week we'll have our last one, which will be the sequel generation, and it is going to be very interesting to explain to you how those characters came to be. To explain to you who the parents of those characters are. I think one of them you might see coming, the other one you won't. And the third one you definitely won't see coming. But yeah, that is it for the original generation. Let me know what you think down in the comments below of Alara, Mace, and Marin. Who sounds the most interesting to you? Which generation sounds the most interesting to you so far? For me, to be completely honest, it is Narina and Marin, because of how I change things and how I've written things. That is definitely the most interesting for me so far. Let me know your least favorite Star Wars movie down in the comments below. Play nicely, people. As always, all of my social media handles will be down in the description below, along with my blog if you want to read the post that goes along with this video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the little notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload. And I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye.